MPs are due to vote today on a bill that would prevent under-18s getting married in England and Wales. Campaigners are welcoming the proposed legislation as a huge stride forward in battling arranged child marriages. Well, Payzee Mahmod is a child marriage survivor and a campaigner and joins us now. Good morning. Payzee, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. We can hear you now. So, first of all, people will be maybe surprised at how young you can get married in England and Wales currently. Just remind us of the current legal position.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I think people may be surprised and quite shocked that at the moment, the current law allows 16 and 17-year-olds to be married under what they call parental consent, which I'll go into in a second, that we're finding is actually amounting to parental coercion. And this is what I experienced in my own case of child marriage.
Tell us what happened to you.
So when I was 16 years old, living in London, I was coerced into a child marriage to a complete stranger, a man who was twice my age. And really, my life turned upside down from that moment. I was expected to be a wife and take on all the responsibilities and duties of a wife, although I was just a child and 16 years old and in education. So that was extremely harmful, of course, for my childhood, and really minimized my opportunities and affected my education and, of course, my health in so many ways.
And that was because your parents forced you into that?
Exactly, yes. At the time, I certainly didn't recognise it was coercion. But one thing I knew is that I didn't want to get married. But of course, as a child, I didn't have any say in that. And so I just found myself literally overnight married to a complete stranger. And I think it's really important that we stress the point here on coercion, because as children, you really don't understand that point. And that's why we need to ensure that we remove this and make sure that children don't have this idea that marriage is on the table for them. We should be thinking about their full potential and their aspirations. That is what they should be unlocking.
So tell us about this bill, the significance of it, the difference it would make.
Well, I think it would make a huge difference, literally life difference. So today, for the first time, the MPs will vote on safeguarding futures and banning all forms of child marriage. And this bill is the private members bill by Pauline Latham, and it covers all forms of marriages, not just registered. And so the bill to me is absolutely a historic change if it were to go into law, and something that dates back to the Second World War. It really is so important for so many children. I know certainly it would have changed my life in so many ways. It would have prevented me from going so much harm, and also it would have saved my sister's life, who was also a child bride here in the UK, aged just 17.
You say it would have saved your sister's life?
Yes, absolutely. So my sister had a child marriage just a few months before me, and for her, just like my marriage, hers was abusive. And so when she left her marriage and really bravely decided to be safe, she actually lost her life in a so-called honor killing. And this is to the extent of which child marriage can harm women and girls, and that's why I say it can make a life difference. So it's really about ensuring that this happens. It will change the lives of so many children.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I know that a letter has been written to Boris Johnson from 4 co-chairs of the Girls Not Brides UK partnership, and they're saying child marriage is often viewed as a developing world issue, and the reality is child marriage is an invisible but thriving issue in the UK. Thriving, I mean, that's terrifying. Do you agree with that statement?
I do agree. Yes, absolutely. I mean, so the organisation I work for, IKWRO, we do see girls who, have faced child marriage or are at risk of child marriage. So it is something that is happening. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people, until you have this conversation with them, don't realise that this is happening right here in the UK. And as you said, thriving. So it really is an issue that needs urgent attention, especially having gone through a pandemic where girls have been out of education and haven't had access to services and professionals. So it really is definitely thriving here in the UK. And I'm really looking forward to today being a huge step in ensuring that children are protected from all forms of child marriage.
When we're saying thriving, have we got any ideas of numbers?
Well, this is one of the really tricky parts of this issue, is that we're talking here about an issue that is quite hidden, because we're not talking about only registered marriages. So there are also religious marriages that are happening that are not registered. And we're talking about 90% of cases, 95% who tend to be marriages that aren't registered. So it's really hard to see the scale of the problem. But we do know it's happening. And the organisations who are the co-chairs of Girls Not Brides UK all do see victims coming forward. And we do see this issue happening right here.
And so you feel that finally the authorities are starting to take this seriously?
Well, I think this bill is a huge step in that happening. I think there's a full holistic approach that needs to be in place to tackle this issue. But I think having a clear law is one of the most fundamental things that we need, because the law acts as a deterrent, and also it takes the onus off the child, because no child should have to have that responsibility of having to speak up and have that, burden on their shoulders. And it should just be a case of there is a clear law, and of course, schools, education, authorities will follow that law, and so will others. It will be a deterrent. So I do definitely believe that this is something that is needed. We need that first and foremost, and then we need to work around that and ensure that, resources are available for young people and the awareness is out there. Because as you said in the beginning of the conversation, so many people are shocked when you do tell them that this is an issue happening right here in front of us.
Payzee, thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. That is,
of course. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. That's Payzee Mahmod, who is a child marriage survivor and also campaigner.
It's one of those things where, when it's pointed out to you, it's just so incredible. Why is it legal for 16-year-olds to get married with parental consent in this country? Can you imagine any circumstances where that might happen? And yes, it may largely be people doing it for religious reasons, but in those cases, when those people want to get married, surely that should be a red flag rather than something that we enable with law. So, it just sounds like a no-brainer, really.